Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, cursed films, dodgy covers and sci-fi mysteries. It's my weekly wrap-up. So after quite a quiet reading week last week, I've had a much better week this week. So I've got 5 books to talk to you about, all very different from each other, but all quite interesting and enjoyable in their own ways. So I'll talk about those 5 books, and then once I've done that, I'll go through, as I usually do, what's been on the channel and what's coming up on the channel in the week ahead. So let's crack on with the books then. So the first thing I finished this week then was Ripley Underwater by Patricia Highsmith, the last of the 5 Ripley books, which was really enjoyable and kind of like, it was a bit like a greatest hits of Ripley kind of book, in that it's about, so Ripley, who's this sociopathic character at the centre of these books, lives in France and in various of the different books preceding in the series commits different crimes. And there's a whole big thread through some of the books about this art forgery scheme that he's involved in. So in this book, the final book, somebody, like this couple, move in nearby and he can't figure out who they are, but they're clearly interested in him in some way. And he's trying to figure out which of his previous crimes they've got some sort of connection to. So you get a lot of the events of the previous books kind of replayed in this book as the kind of tension mounts because he feels like he's kind of being hunted. So just a really enjoyable wrap up to the series. Not Patricia Highsmith's book, best book by any means, but I very much enjoyed it. It was really fun and it felt like a true Ripley book. There's one book in the series, and I can't remember which one it is now, which doesn't really feel like a Ripley book. It involves Ripley on this train journey and a kind of murder on the train journey, and it feels a bit more like an espionage type book than a kind of Ripley thriller. But this one definitely felt like a Ripley book again, and a very fitting end to the series. After that, I read, as a buddy read with one of my patrons, Heidi, the book Experimental Film by Gemma. This is a book I've been meaning to read for ages and ages. I heard about it years ago, and I really love like cursed art and particularly cursed film books, which this is. But for some reason, it's not in print in the UK, so I had to buy this copy off eBay. But this is an American edition. But really, really good. So Gemma Files is a Canadian author. This book is set in Toronto, and I think a number of her books are set around Toronto. This one involves a woman who is a film critic stroke lecturer and was previously a filmmaker herself, who watches this experimental film, this weird experimental film, which has got this strange footage in it, and it's about her trying to trace the history of that footage that's used in this short movie. So there's elements of kind of there's like a historical mystery, shall we say, at the heart of this. There's elements of folk horror. There's like cursed film stuff, which I always love. I love this idea of there being something hidden in films that like infects your brain in some way, and that's definitely the case in this. So yeah, just a really enjoyable, creepy book. The other thing that was great about this book is there's so the central character has a son who's autistic, and there was a load of stuff in the book about their relationship, which I found really interesting and really sensitively handled as well. So a very good book. I enjoyed that a lot. After that then, so I read a book for Shorty September. So this book was sent to me by my dad, and I remember this book being in our house when I was a kid. So one of the prompts for Shorty September, which I think was like Zip Off Shorts or something like that, was to read a book with a title that could be shorter. My dad saw my video where I was musing about what book I was going to read for that, and I think when I filmed my TBR for Shorty September, I hadn't chosen a book. So he sent me this book, the title of which is, and I need to hold this is the book with the dodgy cover, so I need to hold it carefully, so this video doesn't get taken down. So this was published in like late 60s, early 70s, and at that time in the UK, it felt like every other book had nudity on the cover, basically, and this one definitely does. So here we go. Here's the book. So it's called "And to My Nephew Albert, I Leave the Island What I Won of Fatty Hagan in a Poker Game." It's by an author called David Forrest. David Forrest was a pseudonym for 2 guys. It's like a mashup of their names. They also wrote a book which I now forget the title of, but which became the Disney movie One of Our Dinosaurs is Missing, which is a movie I remember from my childhood as well. So anyway, this is a kind of comic novel about this guy, like a young guy who inherits this island from his uncle. He goes to the island, he meets a young woman there, and is like fancies her basically, and they're about to start up a relationship when a Russian boat crashes on the island. So it's a small uninhabited island. This Russian boat crashes on the island, and the Russians offer to buy half the island off him, so they can like repair their boat and stuff. The Americans find out and they buy the other half of the island and send troops. So it ends up with this young couple on the island with American forces on one side and Soviet forces on the other side. So it reminded me a lot of MASH in terms of that kind of, a lot of the humour is kind of knockabout humour, a lot of it alcohol fueled humour, so quite silly, bawdy humour. But you've also got this kind of political edge to it in the background, this kind of satirical element to the book. So it was a very fun read. I did enjoy it. Very short. It's about 150 pages. The title is almost as long as the book, but yeah, an entertaining read. Sadly, long out of print, I think. After that, then I finished listening to Titanium Noir by Nick Harkaway, which was the Criminology Book Club pick for this month. So this is a mystery novel with a science fiction setting, so set in the future. There is a thing which gives the book its name, which I'm not going to spoil because I thought it was really, really interesting. But basically, something that super rich people are able to do in this future society that makes them different from other people. Let's put it that way. So one of these, there's a murder at the start of the book, and the central character is like a consultant who is involved with this thing that the rich people are involved in, if that makes sense, but works with the police. So he's kind of got hooked into kind of rich society that help the police in investigations. So he gets pulled in to help with this investigation. And basically it's just a really, really solid mystery, but with a really interesting central science fiction-y concept at the heart of it. And I thought both sides of it were handled really, really well. It reads like a kind of 40s, 50s kind of noir novel. The plot definitely has a feel of that, with kind of corruption and murder and intrigue and all that kind of good stuff. Some fantastic dialogue as well, and a couple of really, really good fight scenes, which I enjoyed enormously. Just a fun mystery novel, but as I say, with a really interesting sci-fi element to it as well. After that, I've literally just finished this morning, Elemental Forces, edited by Mark Morris. So this comes out in October. So this is the fifth in a series of short story anthologies that Mark Morris has edited for Flame Tree Press, which has become known as the ABC of Horror, because the first one starts with an A, the second one with a B, etc., etc. So this is book 5, starting with an E. So just a really solid short story collection. Some really good authors in here, some of whom I've read before, some of whom I haven't. So let's see who I read before. Poppy Z. Bright, Laura Hightower, Sarah Langan I'd read before, and a few authors. David J. Show as well, a very good story from David J. Show. So a bunch of different authors, some I'd read before, most of whom I was aware of, but a number of which I haven't read. So really interesting to read stuff by them. Just a really good modern horror anthology. So definitely recommended. I'll probably do a review of this on the channel at some point as well. So currently reading The Skull Mantra by Elliot Patterson. So this is a kind of mystery thriller that came out in the late 90s. Very kindly sent to me by one of my patrons, Dallas. So thanks again for that, Dallas. So this is one of those, there was a wave of mystery novels, and maybe there still is, where you get an interesting setting for the book. So this is set in kind of China and Tibet. And it's about the discovery of the body of an American tourist there. So I've literally only read the first 2 pages, but it seems really good so far. Won the Edgar Award, which is always a good recommendation. So yeah, really looking forward to reading more of this over the next few days. In terms of channel stuff then, so in the last week, you've had my review of the Bigme B751C colour e-reader and notepad, which is a device I've been using a lot recently and really enjoying. You've had a video where I talked about a number of short horror books I've read recently, so short story collections and a novella, all by indie authors, all of which I really enjoyed. I did a video talking about Book Talk and the Booker Prize and how they're more similar than you may think. And I did an unboxing video where I opened a couple of mystery boxes that were sent to me by Heidi, one of my subscribers, that contained food, like weird American food and books. In the week ahead then, I haven't quite finalised what my schedule is going to be, but I think you're definitely going to get my October TBR. I think you're also going to get a book haul video. I bought a few books recently, which I need to show off. You're going to get a review of A Dark and Subtle Light by Mark Hodder, and also the BookTube anniversary tag. So it was my 3rd anniversary on BookTube in the week just gone. So there's a tradition on BookTube where you record this video where you answer a bunch of questions about basically how your channel's going. So I'll be doing that in the weekend as well, I think. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Hope you've all had fantastic reading weeks. Let me know what you're reading in the comments. And as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff. And I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.